Hi everyone, welcome to the Open College podcast series. My name is Oxana and I'll be the host of this podcast. If this is your first time listening, welcome, and if you're coming back, well then thanks for listening again and welcome back. On this episode, we have our Career Development Manager, Mary McGlynn, back again talking you through what a good CV and cover letter looks like. I hope this helps those who are currently looking for a new job and that it makes CV and cover letter writing easy for you. Having said that, let's just get into it. Enjoy.
Great to be back again doing another important podcast on another really important topic. So as you know, I am the Careers and Development Manager now for the Open College for the past 8 years. So I sort of teach career guidance. I teach students how to put together CVs and cover letters. And then another one of my responsibilities is to recruit staff for the Open College, tutors and administration staff. And to create panels for, each of our courses as well. So I have looked at hundreds of CVs and cover letters now at this stage. And I would also talk to a lot of employers as well as to what they actually like to see, on CVs and cover letters. So a lot of feedback from those as well, which will be very helpful for today's podcast. So as well, many people have found themselves out of work at the minute, because of the COVID situation. So the positive side to that is, I suppose, it's the perfect time, if you haven't done it already, to look at your CV. You're probably applying for more work, or you're looking into maybe changing career, or whatever it is. It's a good idea to look at your CV and kind of trying, to update it and things like that. So it is a kind of a perfect opportunity now that you have the time to do that. So look, can I just start off by saying that most people are not very good at writing CVs and cover letters. And I'm not saying that in a mean way at all. It's just that I know in my situation anyway, my own situation, I didn't have any career guidance at school at all. Did you, Oxana?
No. I did a class. I think it was called LCVP at the time, and it was something that you had to do if you had a certain subject combination. So in my case at the time, I did 2 science subjects, so therefore I had to go off and do this LCVP class. And it was all kind of like computer focused. But look, it wasn't great. It was like your business teacher or in our case, it was our business teacher who was put in to do certain like CVs and cover letters with us, and then like other kind of show you how to use the computer kind of thing. But it was all very, very, very basic. Like, to be honest, it wasn't that great. The CV kind of that she showed us, I don't use to this day. So yeah, no, it wasn't fantastic. I'd say a lot of people are in the same boat. You don't get. That's not something you're taught, so.
Yeah, and this is it. So like, I don't blame people for sending a CV in that's not very well structured and everything, because they don't know how to put a CV together. I mean, yes, you can go online and you can go on Google or whatever it is, and you can see all these different templates. However, what they do is, you end up just producing a generic CV. And what happens is, you might use that to apply for your first job. That's grand. But then as we grow, what's very normal now is we change career 4 or 5 times in a lifetime, even more than this in some cases, So you're gonna need an updated CV at some point, and it's very important to just tailor your CV to the job that you're applying for. You're not going to use the same generic CV as, if you apply for an administration job and now you've decided maybe you want to work in HR. You need a completely different CV for that. Although there's skills you can bring with you from administration into, HR. HR has, different skills and things like that. So you're going to change up your CV for it to really stand out to the employer.
Yes.
And a key thing to do there is, when you're applying for any job in a CV, is research the employer. Go online, go onto their website, go onto their LinkedIn website, look at keywords that they use in their business, look at the job description, look at the key skills that they're looking for, and focus on them in your CV. And that's the key things to do, because if you're just using the same CV over and over again, the employer just knows to look at it straight away, that no effort has been put in there, and it just gets left on the no pile, as I would call it. So yeah, so I hope today that I can, throw out a few pointers for people that's just having trouble with CVs and think, my God, putting a CV together is like a huge chore, so I hope I can make it as straightforward as possible for people, and so that it's not like a huge chore anymore, that they can just go, right, I'll do this, this and this, and it'll just be very easy for them.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So then will we just get into it, and what would you say is something that's essential to have on your CV?
Okay, well, look, the essential. So will we start off with cover letters, Oxana?
Sure, if you want to do cover letters first, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll start off with cover letters, because sometimes I would get a CV without a cover letter, and to me, that's just not putting in as much effort. And recent research has shown that 57.1% of employers rank a cover letter as an essential part of the application process. So more than half of employers want to see a cover letter, so it is quite important.
Why is that now? Because just for me anyway, sure, your CV would have more information than a cover letter would.
Yeah, so all your most relevant information will be on your CV, but if you write a good cover letter and it really stands out to the employer, they're going to want to look at your CV more. If I see a really good cover letter and they've put a lot of thought and effort into it, that's first of all what I look for. Okay, so this person's taken the time to actually put a bit of effort in, take the time out and write this cover letter. So that's the first point. Then I read the cover letter, and if they include some of the skills, it's going to get me sort of attracted to it. It's going to make me relate to the person without even knowing them. Okay, so they've done their research, they're aware of some of the skills that we're looking for, they have the experience that we're looking for. It's really going to make me want to read the CV and not just skip through some of the information. Because realistically, most employers will spend, I don't know, I'm just thinking of myself, when I see a CV, like I spend about less than a minute going through it, before I kind of decide, this isn't great, or it's not what we're looking for, or they didn't put an effort in. So if you put a bit of effort into the cover letter, it's going to really make the employer want to read your CV more, and it's going to make them think that you want the job more because you've put in more of an effort. Makes sense. So what is a cover letter? So look, it's just an introduction, and so you're introducing yourself and how you would fit the job description. It's not a repeat of your CV at all. It's just one page, and you're focusing on a few skills and a few points from your experience that you think the employer values the most. So this is again where your research of the employer comes in. You're finding out what they're looking for, and you're matching a few skills and a bit of experience with what they're looking for. And again, cover letter should be different for each job that you're applying for. Obviously, if the criteria is different. So the employer wants to know how much you match the position. So first things first, as I keep saying, research the employer and the specific role that you're applying for. Find out who will be receiving the cover letter and your application, and it's good to name somebody in the cover letter rather than dear sir, madam, because it makes it more personal. If the name isn't there, call the company and find out, look, I'm applying for this role, who should I address the cover letter to? It's as simple as that. And then make a list of the skills and experience mentioned in the job description. This is just a rough, have a page, write all the skills and experience from the job description. Read about the company, read about their culture, read about their ethos, and try and kind of relate to it and try and kind of get your personality, into the cover letter through reading that. And another good thing is, when you go on LinkedIn particularly and you look up a company, they talk about their long-term aims, their future goals, what they're looking to achieve, and then you can take some of that as well and think, right, how can I be a part of that? In the cover letter you can write, I see that one of your future aims is blah blah blah, and I would like to be really involved with that. As I have some relevant experience, I think would help towards reaching your goals, and things like that. And you can imagine getting this, Oxana, put yourself in the employer's shoes, and if you see this cover letter from somebody, you're going to think, well, geez, they're really fitting into the company's sort of culture and where we see each other in a few years.
Yeah. And what would happen then? So not everybody has a knack or any kind of skill, I suppose, for writing these kind of things. Some people are just at a complete loss. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is, would it be somewhat of an unfair advantage then? Because you could have an employee that's, I don't know, say they're applying for a computer programming job, and they are literally the best person you could think of for this job, but their CV gets overlooked purely because their cover letter isn't written well.
Yes, and or the cover letter or whatever kind of CV they put together, if you haven't got those skills, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because a lot of the sort of bigger companies, bigger recruitment companies and everything, like, they get hundreds, on average 250 CVs and cover letters per job application. Now that's a lot, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, definitely. And then you have to shortlist them, and yeah.
Yeah, have to shortlist them, and then they have systems to kind of pick out keywords that they're looking for in CVs and cover letters. So they have different kind of systems that do that and things like that. So if you're not skilled, you definitely are at a disadvantage if you're just sending in a CV and hoping for the best. Which is why you should really, really put a lot of focus on trying to get a CV and cover letter right, to get your interview. Because if you do put that bit more effort into it, and that bit more kind of research in the company, and putting your own personality on cover letters and CVs, you're gonna get that interview. You're not going to be left on the no pile. And there's some of the CVs that I get, Oxana, like, I know, like, I'm looking at their experience, right, and I'm looking at their qualifications, and I'm saying to myself, right, okay, this person obviously, they are skilled, and I can kind of see potential in CVs, so I won't put them on the no pile. I'll say, right, actually, I'm going to give this person a chance. And 99.9% of the time, I'll invite them for an interview, and they really, really do suit the job. But the bigger companies will not do this because they just don't have the time.
I was going to say, see, you're nice as well. So you'll get someone who isn't as nice and who doesn't have the time to do that. And they're just like, I don't know, they could have a day to look through all these CVs, and it's just a quick thing, and they're like, right, grand, next. And, that it is what it is. Yeah.
And that's why career guidance, especially at a very young age from school, and making it normal, putting together these things and making it easy, to apply for jobs and stuff like that, should be sort of taught at a very young age from school upwards. Then there would be no issues like this. It's just because the people have no experience. But hopefully, with some of these tips, and they're straightforward, very, very straightforward tips, big research in the company and putting your own stamp, on cover letters and CVs. And so just if we look at the breakdown of a cover letter, so there's just 4 parts, okay? 4 parts.
Sounds easy enough.
to a cover letter, all right? Yeah. So in the first paragraph, you're stating the job that you're applying for and where you saw it advertised, all right? So what you would say is, I'm applying, dear Mr. Smith, for example, I'm applying for the position of healthcare assistant as advertised on your website dated the 10th of January, okay?
Yep.
And then you might want to just say, I've just completed my healthcare support award with the Open College, for example, and gained 250 hours work placement or whatever, in the area. So, whatever way you want to tailor it to whatever job that you're applying for, you just start off with something basic like that. So that's straightforward.
Yeah, easy enough.
Easy enough. And then the second paragraph, then you write about why you're applying for the role. So the second paragraph is all about why you want the job, why you're actually applying for the role. So you talk about, you could say something like, my experience and training have provided me with excellent, knowledge of healthcare practices, patient care, staff development and other relevant skills, that would suit this job. And you're now looking to use this knowledge, to work in a well kind of established organisation like yourselves, and things like that. So you're going into more detail as to why you're applying for the role.
And it all has to be positive. You can't ever say anything like, I don't get on with my manager, so I'm moving on. That kind of thing.
No, geez, no, you never mention that. Never ever talk badly about your manager, because look, I think that most people don't know is that a lot of managers know one another.
Yeah.
In the area, so like they could be friends in real life. So you could be just, you could be found out straight away. It's not a very nice thing to do anyway. So you don't want to talk badly about your previous employer at all.
Yeah. Okay? Don't be shooting yourself in the foot prematurely.
Well, exactly. And then the third paragraph then is you draw attention then. So this is draw attention to your skills from the job description, sort of any achievements that you have, and maybe talk about the main reasons you want to work for the company, and this is where your research of the company comes in handy. You're going the extra mile here. So you talk about your strong teamwork skills, your strong organizational skills, and take the skills from the job description that you're applying for. So look at the job description. If they're looking for strong teamwork skills, add that. If they're looking for strong IT skills, add that. Don't have to go into a lot of detail about it, but make sure it's in the paragraph somewhere. Mm-hmm. If they're looking for, if you're applying for a healthcare job, obviously they're going to be looking for compassion and empathy and stuff like that. So you would mention that in this paragraph as well. So do you see where I'm going there?
Yes, yeah,
definitely. The third paragraph is all about focusing on the skills that you have that would be very relevant to the job that you're applying for. Mm-hmm. And in the fourth paragraph then, as you just conclude by thanking the reader, to take the time, to read your cover letter, and you look forward to hearing from them in due course. So that's a lovely way of ending it. So an example there is, so please find enclosed my CV for your review. I welcome the opportunity to meet and discuss with you, personally how my skills and strengths can best serve, your care home, for example. Thanks for taking the time to read the cover letter, and I look forward to hearing from you in due course. So that's a nice way of ending it. You're not putting any kind of pressure there, on the employer, just by saying, I really want this job, like I really hope that I get an interview, or I really hope. That doesn't sound good in a cover letter. A nice way to end it is, I look forward to hearing from you in due course.
Yeah.
Yours sincerely, your name and maybe your contact number then at the bottom. So you see, it's just 4 paragraphs, and just make sure to just keep it to 1 page. Okay, never go over 2 pages. And for your CV then it's 2 pages, cover letter 1 page, CV 2 pages at the most. Because the employers, they just don't have enough time to be reading like loads and loads of pages. They don't have time. So what they want to see is just the main information and bullet points and things, and just not to be sort of overwriting your cover letter and CV. Always save as a PDF, so that when you send it, any computer can kind of view it. Keep it proofread as well. Oxana, is very, very important. Go over what you've written. Make sure that there's no spelling or grammar mistakes. And what I always do is, like, I know from experience that I would go over things and there's still, spelling and grammar mistakes that I don't notice. So I would get somebody else to read over it. And then maybe they would spot one or two things that they feel, might sound better, change this, add this, maybe there's a spelling mistake there. So get somebody else to proofread it. And yeah, just just personalize it as much you can, find out specific names and who to address it to, and things like that.
And when you're reading the CV, or no, sorry, the cover letter, has it ever happened, now for me anyway, I'd be afraid that I sound like I'm boasting. How do you kind of avoid it from sounding like that? Or how do you not to be a show off, but then I suppose, isn't your cover letter supposed to be that you are showing off what you can do and who you are?
Yeah, and look, I get this from a lot of people, and the thing to remember here is to value yourself and your abilities. You've put so much work and effort into your courses, into your previous experience, so you need to value those and value yourself and not think you're boasting, because you're actually talking about what you can do and what you're good at. So to me, when I'm reading a cover letter and CV, and they're talking very positively about themselves, I think that's a great thing, because obviously they value what they're good at, and it's just as simple as that. You're not boasting.
And have you found that women are more likely to be afraid that they're boasting or about themselves rather than men? Is that like a psychological thing, I wonder, that men will be more forthcoming about their abilities?
Well, again, look, so there's I'm kind of going to go into a bit of psychology here, but in your brain, men and women have like two different brains, basically. Men think with more the left-hand side, of the brain, and that's thinking sort of more logically. So I'm just going to sit, I'm going to write it, I'm going to write what I'm good at, and that's it.
Yeah.
Women think with both sides of the brain, left and right. So it's logical, but it's emotional as well. Mm-hmm. So we sit down, okay, we're going to write it. Oh God, but what if I sound like this? That starts to come in.
Yeah.
And, but if I write this, maybe they'll think that of me, and all of this. So you're kind of thinking emotionally about it as well. So that's probably why, what you're saying, Oxana, that's probably why women would actually question themselves more about these types of things. And if they're sounding a bit boastful, or, they don't want to lose their honor themselves, and, for the employer to think that, they're better than everything else or whatever. So that's where your emotions come in. So that's why. But realistically speaking, when I get a CV and it's all very positive, and when I get the person into the interview, they're generally okay, talking about themselves, and they're well prepared and everything. If they have thoughts like this, they don't make it. They don't tell me, basically, but they may have thoughts like that at home. I don't know, but it's not very obvious, when I'm conducting interviews or anything like that. But it's a good thing, it's a good thing to probably know about the female and the male brain, isn't it?
It's just something I've come across before now. I don't know, maybe in the office, if you heard me, I'm a big fan of TikTok now since lockdown. So it's one of the things I've come across. There's this man who puts up like CV stuff, and then there's this other one that I follow who puts up like Excel tips and all this kind of things. And this is one of the things that he said. So I just thought that's kind of interesting to note, that women would be more kind of like reserved about themselves and their abilities versus a man. And I was just thinking that, I just thought that was interesting, that's all.
Yeah, and it's because we think we're logical, but then our emotions come in as well, a lot to it. So that's why we do question things and feel kind of more things and all that, and kind of question ourselves and doubt ourselves and things like that, yeah. So it is. Yeah, it's very interesting actually.
Okay. So we have the 4 sections of the cover letter covered. You have mentioned the importance of sending in your cover letter as a PDF rather than anything else. So is there anything else kind of on cover letters that we need to mention or cover before we move on to CVs?
No. So I mentioned, saving as a PDF. and to proofread. Did you hear?
Yep. Yeah, you mentioned proofreading.
Mention proofreading and everything. No, not really. So look, we'll move on to CVs now. So if you are, job hunting at the moment, and if you master your CV, you definitely will get that interview. And your CV won't be left on the no pile, as I keep calling it. So look at some facts first of all about CVs. So as I said before, employers only look at CVs no longer than a minute, when they get them. And I know that because from my research with employers myself, and from myself looking at CVs, because you get so many of them. So you just want to get through them. You want to look at them as well as you can, but you've a lot to get through. So you want to get through them as quickly as you can as well. So look, we're not going to be looking at them very, very long. So you want to make them really stand out when you're putting them together. And then a high percentage of employers will see you on social media as well, guys.
Yes.
So, if you're putting a really good, impressive CV together, and you're putting across this impression of being very responsible, multi-skilled and all the rest of it, but then if they go on social media and see sort of a few reckless photographs or whatever it is, and a few posts that's not very
professional.
Professional, yes, that's the word. Well then, from my experience, from the research with employers, they're just not going to invite you to interview.
Absolutely. The first thing that goes off is, why would we want this person representing our company and our brand or whatever it is?
Yeah. That's it. So guys, look at your social media accounts. Look at that photograph that you have up. Look at some of the comments and stuff like that, and just really, and maybe just put your profile on private, so that nobody can really see, other than your friends or whatever. But outside people can't really come in and see everything on your profile. And just have a sensible photograph as your profile picture. And I said, like, on average 250 CVs are received per job, and especially these are in the bigger recruitment companies, and even more than that now. 76% of CVs are ignored if your email is unprofessional. So that's something you don't really think about, is it?
No, but wouldn't you not be really embarrassed if, well, I would be really embarrassed if your email is the first one you set up when you were 15, and it's well, we all know those emails from when you were 15, the hotmail.com ones,
Yeah,
because I think that was that was the first one I think that was out, I think, back then, for me anyway. That was the most popular. But anyway, professional email address.
Oh, professional email. Like I've seen some really weird and funny email addresses, and you just look at it and go, oh, well, no, come on. You obviously you're not thinking, you're really not thinking, and you're just putting this email on without putting a lot of thought into it, like, and everything. So you just think straight away. And then very low percentage of CVs pass the basic quality test. And, the basic quality test as being, having the right headings, having no, spelling and grammar mistakes. So that's basically it, just having your right headings, and your spelling and grammar mistakes as well, just making sure everything is just right. And then the quality test as well, going over 2 pages. If you go over more than 2 pages, we just don't have time to be reading the CVs. You can, doesn't matter how long you've worked, how many different jobs you've worked in, you can fit it into 2 pages, and I'll talk about that later. And then, some facts as well, so we spoke about emails. What about your voicemail? Have you ever thought of that? So if employers call your number, so say, you have a good CV and they're very impressed and they go to call you for an interview, and you're unreachable and it goes through to voicemail, and you get some silly voicemail, that's not very professional, I guarantee the employer won't be ringing back. and they won't be
Yes.
leaving a voicemail. And again, I've heard some very strange and weird and funny voicemails. I think it's funny, but again, I'm not going to be ringing inviting the person for interview, and then, other companies won't either, so that's another thing you probably won't think about that you'd need to have a look at. And then a key facts as well, and I mentioned it before, that HR systems now scan CVs for keywords, key skills, and the key qualifications. If they're, for the job, if they're not on your CV, they won't look at your CV at all, and it'll be just passed on.
So Mary, sorry, hang on. When you say HR systems, it's actually like a computer program, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was specifically like what you do. Someone in recruitment, they sit there and they go through everything. I didn't know it was a program. Okay. Every
Yeah,
day is a
yeah,
school day.
yeah. They have certain programs that do this, and again, it's because they're so limited for time.
Oh, makes sense.
Hundreds and
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of CV per application. To sit there and go through each of them would take years.
Yeah.
They kind of had to come up with these stuff. So that's another reason to research the company, use the keywords that they're key sort of skills that they're looking for, key qualifications that they're looking for, and so on, and put them in your CV. It's all about putting that bit of effort in beforehand. And then, some of the reasons why CVs are rejected, I keep saying, a bad first impression, too long, too short. I've had some CVs as well, Oxana, that is just maybe just one page, maybe a half a page.
You see, that's the other thing I wanted to ask, because I have heard different opinions on this. Some people say 1 page is plenty. Other people say 2 pages. And then, like you said, over 2 pages is way too much. So what's actually like the standard, I suppose? Because to me, 1 page is way too short.
Yeah.
2 pages, I think, is just enough.
Yeah, 1 page to me, you're not going to be able to get all the information in there that you need to put in
No, you
there.
couldn't. It'd be too cramped.
It would be too cramped. It wouldn't just look professional. It would look unstructured. It just wouldn't be right. 2 pages is ideal. Try and stick to the 2 pages, and that's what you're looking for. And just don't go over the 2 pages. If you go over the 2 pages, it's just too much work for the employer to read all that.
Yeah, it's too much work for you to be doing as well. Let's face it.
I'm just after looking at a CV this morning, and for one of the jobs that the person had done for the duties of that job, it was taking up almost a full page.
Yeah, no, I've seen some CVs. Yeah, there's some that are completely all over the place. Others, like you said, they don't go for what you're actually hiring for. Some are very good, but like too detailed, if that makes sense. It's like leave something for the interview.
Yeah. So look, it's not easy for the person looking at these CVs. It's not an easy job to go through loads and loads of CVs, to pick out the right person. So think about that when you're applying for the job. How are you going to make this as easy as possible now for the person reading it, so that you stand out and you get called for interview? Always try to put yourself in the employer's point of view, not just, okay, I'm going to put this CV together because I'm applying for a job. Look at it from the employer's point of view. Like, think about it, right? This is my business. What kind of employer am I looking for? What kind of employee am I looking for? Like, what kind of skills do I want to see in the CV, and sort of switch it over and look at it from the employer's point of view, and that'll really help with putting your CV together. Do you know what I mean? And CVs are rejected because poor spelling and bad grammar. That's not, attention to detail is quite important for every job that you're going to be going for now. So that's showing that you don't have that.
Especially if you put one of your key skills as vigilance, and then your actual CV is just a mess.
Yes, exactly. It's just, it's very unprofessional, and it's just not nice to look at at all. So you're just definitely going to be put on the no pile. So look at again. I'm going to talk about the sections of the CV. So there's just 4 main sections. Again, like your cover letter. 4 sections on your cover letter. There's going to be 4 main sections on your CV as well. So the first section at the top of the page. Now, a lot of people write their curriculum vitae at the top, right? Don't do that. There's no need to do that. And that's just taking up a lot of space as well. So just delete curriculum vitae and just put your name at the top and smaller writing. You don't have it this huge heading of curriculum vitae. There's no need for that anymore, guys, because we know what it is.
I was going to say, you'd be pointing out the obvious there.
Yeah. see, just put your name at the top and smaller writing, not as big like. So name, and then your contact details, obviously your address, your mobile phone number and your email address. And then if you have a LinkedIn account, it is really good to put the link on there from your LinkedIn account, and that shows professionalism as well. We really should all have a LinkedIn account, guys. It's like a sort of an online CV, so it's really good to have on an actual CV for them to go on there and have a look at your LinkedIn account as well, and they'll be able to see more details about you there. So have your LinkedIn account very professional and your photograph professionally done as well for that.
The other thing actually I see, because I mean obviously I have LinkedIn, but some of the photos you see of people is like a cropped picture from them on a night out, and I'm like,
yeah,
you wouldn't really put that there, would you? No. Do you know what you're saying, professional? It doesn't have to be like that. A photographer takes it and you have to go in. It's just a good photo, maybe with like a plain backdrop.
Exactly. Like, you don't have to go out and spend loads of money on a professional photographer or whatever. Just a nice dress. Put a nice top on, a professional top. Try and be as professional as you can with your clothes, just a plain backdrop, nothing behind, just plain, and maybe just a slight smile, just to look, I suppose, approachable as well. And things like that, and just to have a nice photograph like that on your LinkedIn account would help a lot, because when you go to look at people's profiles on LinkedIn and you don't see a photograph, and people make a lot of mistakes. Not the few profiles that don't have a photograph, and you're going to read, if you see a photograph, you're going to read the profile more than if there's no photograph, So
definitely you would, yeah.
Try and get the right one there. And then the section 2 then is your personal profile. All right, so all this is just about 4 or 5 sentences that really makes you stand out for the job. You don't look at personal profile is a funny one. You don't really have to do a personal statement, okay? But the advantage is that it will help the employer or a busy recruiter kind of sort through all of their applications, and it kind of tells them who you are and what your strengths are, and your career goals, all in a few sentences. It's particularly helpful if applying for a job in a competitive sector, like HR or PR or something like that. As recruiters will, they'll pick the CVs with the most competitive edge. I know myself, when I get a CV and there's no personal statement, it just goes straight into experience. It just doesn't have the same personal feel to me.
Yeah,
so it's always nice to have. So with your personal statement, there's just 3 parts to that as well, how to structure it. So the first part is a sentence on who you are. Okay, so you could say something like, a highly skilled HR worker with over 10 years experience in the business.
So like a really brief synopsis of what your current job is.
Yeah, and then the second part of that would be what you can offer. So something like, developed an excellent eye for detail and ability to work under pressure. Just something like that. Do you know what I mean? So you're zoning in on, what you can offer the company. And then the third part then would be just something slightly about your career goals. So something like looking to secure a challenging role in the HR business, working for a well-established HR organization.
Okay, sounds easy enough.
Yeah, so if you structure it with those 3 main points, that's how easy it is to write, your personal profile, because I know a lot of people freak out about that as well, don't they?
They do. I think it goes back to the whole thing of like, how do I make myself stand out?
Yeah.
Because realistically, people with a lot of the same qualities and a lot of the same qualifications are going to be applying. So how is it that you make yourself stand out? Like that's
Yeah.
kind of the hard bit. Especially
Yeah.
if, like, specifically straight out of college or something, or you don't have that much experience, it's a bit daunting.
Yeah. Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. But yeah. So if you stick to those very simple points, it'll be no problem. And it's all about practicing as well. Like the first one that you write isn't going to be perfect. It's all about chopping and changing as well to whatever job that you're applying for.
Yeah, definitely.
And then section 3 is all about your work experience. All right. So employers want to see your employment history. And it's important to include any paid, voluntary, any work experience, charity work that you've done, because, at the end of the day, it's all the same, whether you're getting paid or not paid for it. You're doing the same thing. You're learning new skills. You're performing, roles, duties, responsibilities. So it doesn't matter if you're getting paid or not for the work. So it's all very relevant. So look, make a list of the dates. So you're starting from your most recent job backwards, because the employer wants to see your most recent skills. So start with your most recent job and work your way backwards. Okay. So make a list of the dates that you started and the date you finished, the job title, the name and address of the employer, and the main duties that you had while working there. Now, your duties have about 4 or 5 bullet points here. Don't go over that. Okay. Don't have a huge list of duties again, because again, it's just we don't have enough time to be reading them. So just list the main ones that are important for the job that you're applying for, and even if you can sort of blend a few of the duties into one sentence, into one bullet point, is very helpful as well. So it's just not to go overboard with the duties, because we just don't have the time, and then you're going to run out of space anyway.
And then when it comes to the work experience itself, so obviously some people might have had one job before, others might have had 12 jobs before. For the people that, for example, had the 12 jobs, you couldn't, or is it advised not to put them all onto the CV? I remember I was told when just going back to school, is to put in like your 3 latest at max.
So you're putting in, yeah. So you're putting in, what I like to see is most relevant experience. If you've got a huge list of jobs, if you've had more than 10 jobs, you're not going to have the space to put that all in. So if you're applying for a HR job, for example, you're going to be putting in the jobs that you've worked at before that's most relevant to that role. So if you've worked in administration, any job at all, obviously your most recent job that you've done, and then any job before that would kind of fit the role that you're applying for, that you can bring those transferable skills. Okay? And then on a separate then heading, if you've got a lot of jobs, you can just write other employment, other work experience. And then you can list the rest of your jobs there. But what I don't like seeing is a huge list of jobs and then trying to figure out, right, which ones is most relevant now to the job that you're applying for. And it's up to me then to find it, to find the jobs.
Exactly.
So what I like to see is most relevant work experience. Talk about those, and then have a separate headings, other work experience, and then, list your other jobs. Then you don't have to go into much detail about the bullet point, your other jobs. And then we'll have the opportunity to talk about that at interview,
Yeah, exactly. We'll go further into it.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's all fairly straightforward. Once it's spelled out for you, it's all very straightforward.
Yeah. I know, but sometimes you just need somebody to spell it out to you. Like sometimes you just need to hear, in your head the right thing to do, but you just need to hear it from somebody,
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're not in that area and you're like, well, I think I should do this, and I've read that I should do this, but I don't know. Like for me, it could be anything. Like you're searching online and you're like, yeah, well, anybody can put anything online, and you need to hear from someone who actually does the thing that you're asking about.
Yeah,
and this is no different. So
exactly. Yeah, it's just good to reiterate things and just confirm things, I suppose. And then Section 4 then is your training and your qualifications. Don't have two separate headings for training and another, another heading for qualifications. It's all, training and qualifications all in the next section. All right. So again, like your work experience, start from your most recent qualification and work your way backwards. Make a note of the date you started and the date you finished, the course title, the name and address of the college, and some of the modules and the results. Now, I'd only put modules and results in the courses that's relevant to the job that you're applying for. So if you're applying for, a childcare role and your most recent qualification is in, early childcare, the major award, you're going to try and list the modules that you've completed and maybe the results that you got for that. And then for the rest of your qualifications before that, just bullet point them and have, your start, finish date, course title, the college. And you don't have to go into all the modules and the results for those ones, just the ones that's relevant for the job that you're applying for. Yeah. So do you see where I'm going with that? Because again, you're going to run out of space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. Especially nowadays, you get so much training and you can do so many qualifications that you wouldn't need to do all that. And then would the same be relevant then for with work experience? We were saying only put in what's relevant to the job that you're applying for. Would you do the same for qualifications? Only put in the qualifications and training you have that's relevant to the job you're applying for, or just list everything?
I think I would list everything there.
Okay.
Yeah, the qualifications, I would just list everything because with the qualifications you can just, bullet point, and you're not going to need as much space for that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So for the jobs, you have to go into duties, you have to go into your role and stuff. For the qualifications, you could just list them, and you don't have to list them all the modules and go into as much detail. So you will have more space for your qualifications. So I'd like to kind of see all qualifications, and I'd explain, you'll see all, and explain some of the gaps then. So if you look at the employment and you go, right, there was a gap there. All right, I can see they were doing a qualification during those years. They were doing some kind of a course. So it'll explain then. It won't make it as complicating. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, no, definitely. And then another question I have, I suppose, is do employers really do look favourably on somebody who worked and studied at the same time?
I'm sure there's a few employers out there that, multitasking and being able to handle, to work under pressure and stuff is very, very important, to them. And seeing somebody, okay, so this person has done, their course, their work placement for that, and they've been working at the same time. So that's, showing them that they can, handle, a lot of work and work under pressure. But certainly somebody that's just doing the course on its own and doing work placement, certainly that comes with its own pressures and a lot of work and juggling time. So I certainly wouldn't put somebody's CV, in front of the other just because they've worked as well. So that's the 4 main sections of your CV there. And as you see, again, it's very, very straightforward. There's no need to overload the CV with lots and lots of information. It's just bullet points and main information that's needed. All right, and matching your CV to the job description and the organisation that you're working for as much as you can, so that the employer can relate to you. So that's 4 main sections. So one other section, if you've got space, is just your reference section. Okay, now I have spoken to a lot of employers on this, and they say, look, it's perfectly fine, to write references on request, and again, this saves space. Like, you don't have to put names and addresses, and with the bigger recruitment companies, a lot of people's personal details are on there, and for security and confidentiality reasons, it's better just to put references on request. But just make sure that you prepare your references. So don't just be putting that on the CV and not having your references prepared. So you put that on your CV, references on request. You let your references know, at least the 2 references know that, look, you've applied for this job and you might be getting a call from the employer about me. So make sure that you go over, you know, how long you've known the person, you know, that they can talk about what kind of worker you were, you know, your key skills, you know, were you trustworthy? Did you show up on time? What was your time management skills? Stuff like that. Did you work well with other people? These are the kind of things that I'd be asking now when I be calling references. And accomplishments, you know, things that you did best at your job. And then the last one is, you know, any areas for improvement. So agree with your reference, what you're going to talk about there. So start off by saying something like, agreeing with your reference to say something like, well, you know, she was very shy and quiet at the start, but after, you know, working in the business for a long time, she kind of came more out of herself and she was very confident then, you know, there was no problem. So try and make areas to improve on as positive as possible, always end up in a positive. So that's why it's essential to contact your referee, agree on these points, because there's some references, I've had experiences of calling references and them not even, I wasn't expecting this call.
Oh yeah, that would look bad.
You know, and then not really, well, I just knew the person for about 2 months, right?
Oh, okay.
And stuff like that. And then you talk about their accomplishments, you know, what were they good at? Well, they were, you know, and you would just know that they weren't prepared for it at all. So that's just not going to look good. And I've had, you know, there's been a few occasions that the references I've called have meant a no in their application altogether. So your references are oh my goodness, it's essential that you contact them beforehand and just let them know what you're doing and that you're talking through all of these points and you agree what they're going to say. It could be just a matter of you know, your reference could be, you influence, you know, you getting the job or not. So it is, you know, it's very important. So now look, I just want to talk about 2 different categories. So the first category is when you're out of work for a long time due to different things. You know, you might have been sick. You know, you might have been out for, you know, the COVID situation, so you're going to be off work for quite some time, maybe some of you, and things like that. So these are the kind of sort of, you know, long gaps in your CV, and you're very, very worried about that. So look, at the key thing I can say there is, you know, not to worry. It's all about sort of well, obviously, you know, if you're off sick for a while, that's not your fault. So the employer really should understand that. And it's the same with the COVID situation, you know, you couldn't help that. You know, you were let go from your job, but it's what you do in the when you are off that's going to really impress an employer. So try to be as proactive as possible. You know, and a really good way to do that is just to complete a few short courses. You know, go online, see if there's any courses that you can do online.
Yeah, definitely.
That, you know, that it's really good for your mental health as well, because you're doing something, it's giving you something to do when you're off. You know, you're going to be in much more, you're going to be better off mentally if you're completing the course, which will set you up really well if you're applying for jobs as well. You know, you know, and voluntary experience as well. You know, to get involved with that. Obviously, you know, we're in a pandemic at the minute, but, you know, it won't last forever. So it's about, you know, inquiring about voluntary work if you can't get work, to just be doing something in the meantime. And if you can put these things in your CV while you're off, like the employer will look at it and go, well, at least they've been proactive and they're doing something. And, you know, it's all about that and kind of impressing the employer that way. And then, you know, the other category as well is like all those mammies coming back to work after, you know, raising a family, you know, being off on maternity leave. You know, I do get a lot of parents, mommies and daddies, you know, for different, you know, off, you know, looking after families. And, you know, they're very worried about coming back. Oh my goodness, like I've been off work for so long. And, you know, they're going to think I'm not good at it. I haven't been practicing it. So, you know, I'm not going to be good at this anymore. You know, and that's not the case as well. Because the employers are probably, most of them, parents themselves, so they're going to understand where you're coming from. So look, that's all I have for you today. I hope that you can take away some main points there.
And that was Mary on the do's and don'ts of CVs and cover letters. As always, I hope this was informative and that you took something away from it. Until next time, goodbye for now.